Hello, my name is Joshua. I'm welcome to anything to do with this channel. You've read the title, you've seen the thumbnail. Let's just get on with part 2. So let's just start with A Charlie Brown Christmas. It is 20 minutes long, so it's not a film. Let's move on to A Christmas Story Christmas. This is a really great sequel, I think. It does have some like Hallmark Channel moments here and there. But overall, I like Ralphie being back and telling the story as a parent. Yeah, very entertaining from that perspective. So I'll give it a 8. And then we got Annabelle Creation. I like this as a prequel to the Conjuring franchise. It has got some very terrifying moments. I don't think it has that same James Wan flair that those first 2 Conjuring films did, so I'll put it in beta. Then we got A Nightmare on Elm Street. This is just a horror classic. Freddy Krueger, obviously iconic. Nancy as a lead is really great, and they're just really creative with the visuals and practical effects in this film, so I'll give it a Q-tip. Then we've got A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. This was a bit weird. I like the concept of Freddy taking over someone's body, and obviously Freddy is really entertaining in this film again, but I don't think we see enough of him in this film. And the lead actor is just a bit dodgy because it's like they're trying to force this straight relationship onto this like actor is very clearly gay. I'll put it in beta. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. This was really entertaining. They got really creative with the visuals. Freddy's really entertaining this film. I like how it works as like a bit of a comedy as well. It's very cheesy, it's very 80s. I like how Nancy returns. It's a really fun time. It's up there with the first film in my opinion. I'll put it in Q-tier. Then we got A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I don't like the recasting of like a lot of the characters. I think that's not the best, but I think Freddy is at his best in this film. The deaths in this film are probably the most creative out of the franchise. Cinematography is probably the best out of the franchise. The visuals are just the best out of the franchise, I think. But the rest of the film is just not the best, so I'll put it in beta. Then we got Barbarian. This film was absolutely wild. It diverts expectations constantly. It's also very terrifying. It's also really creative with the visuals as well. There's some really interesting cinematography, and the direction where this film goes is just absolutely crazy. I love it. It's a cuter. And then we got Ben 10 Secret of the Omnitrix. I watched this after watching obviously Ben 10. I think this is the most mature and interesting the Ben 10 universe has been. I like the whole explanation behind the Omnitrix and how Ben like literally doesn't have the Omnitrix for a good part of this film, which is actually quite interesting. The animation is improved in the show as well. Very fun watch. I'd give it a B. Then I watched Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I got one word for this film: overrated. I'm sorry. It does a great job at mourning Chadwick Boseman and handing over the mantle of the Black Panther to someone else. I like Namor as a villain. The acting's really great, but I'm just not a fan of the rest of it. I'm not that big of a fan of the story. It is one of the best films Phase 4 has put out, but Spider-Man No Way Home is much better than this, in my opinion. I'll put it in B. Then we got DC League of Super Pets. This was way better than I was expecting it to be. I just decided to watch it because Dwayne The Rock Johnson was in it, and what's his name? Is it Chris? It's not Chris. What's his name? Kevin Hart. They were both in it, and I think they have good chemistry together. I see them in like Jumanji and that, and I think they have a good chemistry. And I want to see how they worked in an animated film. The animation was really great in my opinion. It did look a bit generic at times, but it was okay. There was some like proper genuinely funny moments in this film though, I'm not gonna lie. There was just some really entertaining, really funny moments. The conclusion did get a bit forgettable, but it's a pretty solid film. I'll give it a beta. Then we got Dead Poet Society. This is by the same director as The Truman Show, I'm pretty sure. Truman Show is one of my favourite films of all time. This film, not as good, but it's extremely well written. There's some like extremely emotional moments at points, and I just love Robin Williams. He did a great job in this film. Yeah, it's just a very uplifting, emotional film. I give it an 8. Then we got Die Hard. This is probably one of my favourite Christmas films now. I give it a Q-tier. After rewatching it, it really clicked with me how great this film was. Acting was great. John McClane, iconic character. Hans Gruber, iconic villain. Everything just works so well. I love the whole heist aspect. I love the whole hide and seek, life and death aspect of the film. It just works so well. I'm gonna watch it this Christmas. Then we got Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm pretty sure I gave this a pretty high rating when it came out, and there's a lot of people that hate this film. I got one word: underrated. But it's not that underrated. It's still not the best. I'll give it a P-tier. I think Taika Waititi just went way too far in terms of comedy with this film. Every character is cracking jokes in this film. Gore the God Butcher, I thought was going to play a much bigger part in the film, and he hardly has any screen time. I love Christian Bale, so I was excited to see him in the film, and he was hardly in there. The moments when Gore showed up were really great, and they went really creative with the visuals, but it just feels like a whole missed opportunity, bro. They could have done so much with the whole cancer aspect, the whole Gore the God child budget aspects. It's not the best, but it's not as bad as people are saying it is. It does get a bit infuriating at moments though. Alf, I think this is a really classic Christmas film. I give it an A tier. Maybe that's a little bit too high. I give it a B tier. I think Will Ferrell does a really good job as Buddy. Really over the top. Maybe too over the top at moments, but really entertaining performance. James Caan as this like straight-headed businessman who thinks Buddy is absolutely crazy. I think that's just really funny how he plays the role so straight. It does get a bit generic near the end, and I would like them to take more risks, but overall, it's a really great Christmas film. I think I'm going to up this to A tier, actually. Then we have Elvis. This was a really great biopic directed by Baz Luhrmann. It's very interestingly directed. I like how over the top the visuals and editing is. I think it documents his life really well. It's a really great biopic. It's very, very entertaining from start to finish, even though it's like over 2.5 hours, I'm pretty sure. I do think Tom Hanks is a little bit dodgy in this film. He doesn't do the best. His Tom Parker impression is very dodgy, but apart from that, it's a very solid biopic. I give it an A. Then we have Fight Club. This is an absolute classic. I give it an S tier. The direction is great by David Fincher. Edward Norton and Brad Pitt just do amazing performances. I love the whole narration aspect and how this club gets like set up. The twist at the end is just phenomenal. It blew my mind. S tier. All the way. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. I'll put this in Q tier. It's not as good as the first Knives Out, but it is pretty close. I like the whole mocking the rich aspect. Maybe it goes a bit too far with that, but it's very fun. It's very funny at moments. I like how the first half makes you think one thing, and then the second half completely goes over everything in a completely different light and makes you view everything completely different. It's very interesting how it does that, and the finale is just really epic and really amazing and really satisfying. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, also a Q tier, I think. It's not perfect. I do think when Pinocchio sings, like, he's got a lot of auto-tune in his voice, and it doesn't really reflect like the rough stop motion animation of the film. I don't really like the singing. Everything else about the film is completely phenomenal. I like how it turns the Pinocchio story on its head and makes it much darker and much more serious, and I just love where it goes with everything and how creative it gets. And obviously the stop motion animation is phenomenal. I love stop motion, probably my favourite form of animation, and this film really utilises that to its full advantage. Yeah, it just makes for a really great film. The voice acting's really great as well. Really great overall. Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. This was a really fun time. I'll put it in A tier. It's a really entertaining holiday special. I like the whole Kevin Bacon aspect. It's really funny. It's really heartwarming at the end. The soundtrack's great. I'm probably going to come back to it this Christmas. Hellraiser 1 is probably a Q tier. The practical effects are some of the best practical effects I've seen ever in a film. The whole aspect of like the lament configuration and how that all works is really great. It's really horrific, really disturbing at times. I like the slow burn aspect of it and everything. It's really entertaining, and it culminates in this really chaotic and amazing finale, and it's just a really great horror film. Hellbound Hellraiser 2, I'd give it an A tier. It is a really great follow-up. Practical effects might even top the first film. There's some visual effects that are really bad, but apart from that, it's a really great follow-up. I like how the lead actor from the first film returns, and we got introduced some new characters, some old characters. Then you have Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. This is not as good, but there's a lot of really funny, really chaotic moments, such as the bar scene, but the main characters of this film are so forgettable, and the acting is just not the best, so Peter. Hellraiser Inferno. I'll put this in a C tier. I think it's the weakest out of the Hellraiser films that I've watched. I like the whole detective noir aspect of the film, but the thing is, it's hardly a Hellraiser film. I just felt like it was just a detective noir story, and they just decided to throw in just Hellraiser lore, and I just don't think it works that well. Then we have the Hellraiser remake. This was really great. I give it a B tier. The visuals are really amazing for this film, probably the best out of the franchise. It doesn't have that many practical effects compared to the other films, which I think this film is lacking, but it's probably the scariest of the Hellraiser films. I'm not that big of a fan of like the villain with the nerve machine. He wasn't that great. Then we have It's a Wonderful Life. This is a Q tier for me. I'm sorry. I do think it starts out a bit slow, I'm not gonna lie, but when it gets deeper and deeper into the character of George Bailey, how everything just goes wrong, it's just really great. And then the whole angel thing at the end is just almost perfect. I love that. Then we got It. I'll give this A tier. It's a really iconic horror film now. Bill Skarsgård is just so memorable as Pennywise. There's nothing like it. The interactions between the Losers Club and that are just really funny and really great. Really great horror film. Klaus, probably another Q tier. It's very well animated. The concept of like the origin of Santa Claus is really great, but I don't like the music choices for a lot of the film. The voice acting is great. Knives Out. This is an S tier for me. This is a perfect murder mystery. I love how it keeps you guessing and then completely completely blows your mind at the end. I love how it fleshes out these characters in the family and gives them all a motive and a reason to kill this guy. The cinematography is great. Rian Johnson is just a really great director. He's just made 2 near perfect films for me. Lightyear, more like mid-year. This is going insane. I did not enjoy this film that much. I like the whole time travel concept and him going back to his Earth and the planet getting older and older. I think that's really great, but then when he's in the future, then it's just not as good. It became so unbelievably forgettable. The start was really great and it did have potential to become a really great Pixar film, but then it just became so awfully boring, bro. Then we got Love Actually. I put this in P tier. It's a very cheesy rom-com. I think they're just dealing with too many characters. There's too many characters in the film, but they do deal with balancing them out pretty well. I like how their stories converge at the end. Saying that, too many characters. Then we have Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. I put this in A tier. This is probably the most different of the Monty Python trilogy. It's the most out there and weird of the Monty Python trilogy. Whereas like Life of Brian and Holy Grail, they're like one continuous story. The Meaning of Life is kind of like a bunch of different stories and they both have like an overarching theme, which I really like. Obviously the whole parody aspect is really great and there's some really funny moments in there. It's not as good as the first 2 though. Miracle on 34th Street, I give this a B tier. I think it's a really good 40s film. I like the whole Santa Claus aspect and it turns into like a court drama and I like that whole thing. I like the open ending. There's some good acting in there. I don't think I'd watch it this Christmas though. It just doesn't have that much of a rewatchability factor to it. Minions The Rise of Gru. This is a pizza. No, it's an S tier, bro. It made $1 million at the box office. It's not that great, but it was surprisingly good. It was a fun watch. It had some creative visuals near the end. It had some genuinely funny moments. It's one of Illumination's best, in my opinion. Life of Brian, I'd probably give this an S tier. It's just a classic comedy satire film. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. My Hero Academia, 2 Heroes. I'm gonna put this in P tier. Not gonna lie, I didn't really enjoy this that much. It kind of feels like a bit of filler. It just doesn't really go anywhere. I like the backstory we got on All Might throughout this film, but the whole tower heist thing about it, I couldn't care less about. The fight at the end was really great and the animation was really great. Yeah, I don't really care much about the rest of it. Nope, this is going in the Q tier as well. Really great horror film. The whole alien aspect is amazing. The UFO aspect is just really great. There's some really creative visual moments with this film. There's some really disturbing moments. Everyone talks about that shot where it's like really claustrophobic and you're seeing people getting like swallowed by this alien creature and like digested, and it's really disturbing. You just hear their screams and everything. It's really probably one of the most disturbing moments I've seen in a film. Talk about disturbing moments in the film. We got 1 Hour Photo. I give this an A tier. It's a really well made film. Like Robin Williams does a surprisingly serious performance. The lighting's really great. The visuals are really great. But there is that dream sequence that completely came out of nowhere and gave me a heart attack. Prey. I think this is another overrated film. I give it a B tier. It's still pretty solid. I like the whole tribe aspect and how it's set like hundreds of years ago. The Predator design is one of my favourite Predator designs of all the franchise in my opinion. It's really cool. There's some really great visuals in this film for the most part. The acting's really great and there's some really great fight sequences. It is probably second to the original Predator if I were to rank the Predator films. Then we have Jeepers Creepers. I'll put this in P tier. This was a really fun horror film. I love Justin Long. He does a really great job in this film. I like the Creeper as a villain. It's really like creepy and disturbing how we don't really know what he does to these people in the film. The whole cat lady aspect is really stupid. The ending is not really the best. Oh my god. It's a fun enough watch for a horror film. Then we have Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I'm putting this in S tier as well. Iconic comedy. Really funny. Just really unique with its humour and its satire. It's just great. I don't really have much to say about these Monty Python films. It's just amazing. Then we have Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. I'm putting this in B tier. I think the concept is really great with like this apocalyptic setting with people accepting their fates and knowing the world is going to end. I like Steve Carell and Keira Knightley's performances and the ending is really bittersweet and really stuck with me after I saw it. Overall, the rest of the film is just pretty generic. I didn't want it to be generic. I wanted it to be unique. If the cinematography was better, the direction was better, then this whole concept would be much better and it'd make for a much better film. I just feel like it's a waste of potential. Spirited, I'm putting this in D tier. I didn't like it that much. The cinematography was great. The choreography and effort put into the songs and that were really great. I like Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell's chemistry together, but apart from that, it's just not great. It's cringe. Way too many songs in this film. The Banshees of Inisherin. This film was absolutely perfect. My second favourite film of 2022, first being Everything Everywhere at Once, but this film was pretty close. Like, it's just great from the cinematography, direction, the acting. I love the aspect of like a friendship that just falls apart and how it escalates and escalates and escalates and it just never gets better. Then we have the Christmas Chronicles. Wow, okay. I'll put this in Peter. I did have a good time with it. Pretty enjoyable for the most part. Kurt Russell as Santa is just amazing, but everything around Kurt Russell as Santa is not the best. Then we have The Conjuring. I'll put this in Q tier. This is probably one of my favourite horror films. James Wan is just a really great director and he directed this film really well. The cinematography and the panning shots and like the tilting shots, they just convey so much tension, and the jump scares and everything in this film are just iconic. Everything about this film is just really amazing and it gets really over the top and goofy at the end. Then we have Conjuring 2. I'll put this in A tier. This isn't as good as the first. Maybe they went a bit too much with the jump scares. Maybe they do get a bit too goofy at the end, but it's James Wan. He has that same directorial style that I just love. The Grand Tour, a Scandi flick. I'll put this in B tier. I like the Grand Tour. I like the iconic trio of Jamie Clarkson, James May and Richard Hammond going on their wacky antics in Scandinavia. It's just really fun. I do think it does get a bit too scripted and it kind of takes me out of the film a little bit, but it is a fun film. Then we've got The Hangover. I'll give this a beta as well. Very fun comedy, really funny. I like the concept and where they take that concept, how it escalates and how everything basically goes wrong. I think I'm going to bump this up to an 8 actually. It's a really iconic comedy, really fun. Yeah. Then we have the In-Betweeners movie. This one is just overrated, I'm not gonna lie. Peter. I like the In-Betweeners show, but I just didn't like this movie as much. I think the boys are written to be very stupid in this first film. The direction is not the best. I don't think it captures that same comedy and humour as the show. I think In-Betweeners 2 is actually an improvement, I'm not gonna lie. Some people say that In-Betweeners 2 is worse, but I enjoyed it better. I think the cinematography is improved and the direction is improved. The concept is more interesting with the boys in Australia and all their antics in Australia. The gags and jokes are just funnier in this film, I think. I just felt like they kind of stayed in the same location in the first one as well, whereas in the second film they went to a water park, they get stranded in a desert. It's just some really fun wacky scenarios that they get into. Then we have The Mask. I'm gonna put this in A tier. It's an iconic Jim Carrey film. The style is great. Just Jim Carrey, okay? Just Jim Carrey. He just makes this film. It's just so rewatchable as well. It's such a great comedy film. Then you got A Muppet's Christmas Carol. I think I'm going to put this in Q tier. The musical numbers in this film are really great. Michael Caine does a really great job as a very like serious Scrooge. I like the comedy and I like how the Muppets are implemented into the original like Charles Dickens story and it just works so well. The Social Network, this is a Q tier as well. I watched this in computer science class, so I didn't have the best experience of watching it, but it was a very great film. Jesse Eisenberg does a great performance as Mark Zuckerberg and his like rise to fame, and I like how everything's like non-chronological and it cuts back and forth and it's just very stylized. Again, it's another David Fincher film. Top Gun Maverick. A tier. The cinematography is really great. The cockpit shots of them in the cockpit is really great. Tom Cruise has a really great performance. Maybe it's because I haven't seen the first Top Gun film, but I just don't find the story to be as engaging as I would have liked it to. But it is very fun. Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I'm going to put this in Q tier. Really well directed film by Ben Stiller. It's surprisingly serious for a Ben Stiller film. Usually Ben Stiller's films are really over the top and goofy, but this one is not that. There is some goofy moments, there's some funny moments, but I like how it's just about this simple guy who goes on this massive journey and becomes a completely different person by the end, and it's very heartwarming. It's really great. The cinematography is great and there's some truly emotional moments. Wow. We got Uncut Gems, guys. It's an S tier. I love how it works as like a slow burner. Adam Sandler does a phenomenal job. I was really encapsulated in this film and where it's going to go. I love the dialogue. Like, there's some people who find the dialogue really annoying because everyone's just talking over each other and shouting at each other for half of the film. But I'm really encapsulated in what everyone has to say and like how this escalates till the end where like everything goes down. One of my favourite films of all time. It's so well done. Then we have Werewolf by Night. I give it an A tier. I think this is one of Marvel's best for Phase 4. The style is just great. It's probably some of the best stylistic direction we've got out of the MCU. The black and white style with like the elements of like red and the whole werewolf aspect is great. Where it leads to the end, it just makes it feel really chaotic chaotic and entertaining ending. It's only 40 minutes, like 40-50 minutes. I would maybe like to see it as a feature-length film and delve a little bit more into the characters, but apart from that, it's very solid. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I am going to give this, I think I'll give it a Q10. I don't think it's as good as 1 or 3 in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but it's very entertaining. I like how it like breaks the fourth wall basically in having these like actors play themselves. It's really great concept. I love where it goes with it. I don't think the Freddy design is that good, but I really enjoyed it for the most part. Weird, the Alec Yankovic story. I love this film. I really did. It's probably going at the top of Q-Tip. It's really fun. I love how it parodies biopics. It's just so funny. It just keeps escalating into absurdity. It's so like genius. Daniel Craig does a great performance as Weird Al as well. It's great. Then you got Fresh. I'll put this in A tier. I like how the first 30 minutes of this film seem like a romantic love story between these two people, and then after the 30 minutes it turns a completely different film. It really works really well as like a horror film. The ending's really satisfying. It's very disturbing at moments. The cinematography's pretty great as well. The editing does get a bit over the top at moments, but yeah, I just like where the story goes. Then we have RRR. I'll give this a Q-tip. This film was so over the top, so amazing that I can't help but love it. It is 3 hours, but it did not feel like 3 hours. It flew by. It works really well as a period drama. It works really well as a musical. And obviously you've got those classic Bollywood things that I was expecting from a Bollywood film. And there you have it. Those are all of the films that I've watched in the second half of 2022, ranked on a tier list. I'm going to rearrange these in the order that I think I best see fit, and then yeah, I'd say this is around the right order that I want it in. So yeah, there it is. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you didn't, please leave a dislike. And I'll see you in the next video.